I want to say welcome. Welcome to this pre-presentation for your upcoming two-day workshop. Now that I don't know what time you're watching this PowerPoint or YouTube, so I'll say either good morning, good evening, good afternoon, or good night, you pick. But whatever time of the day you are looking at this pre-homework, this pre-information, please do it in a relaxed atmosphere, do it with your partner, and just relax and take this in the best you can. You don't have to know anything for the workshop, but this is just here to help. My name is Jeff, and I'm going to be your counselor during the 2 days that we are together. Together, we will work at discovering what is working and not working for you as it relates to your sexuality and what you bring into your sexual relationship with your partner. I know that this is going to be difficult for many people, as talking anything about sexuality in a group setting is a little disheartening and sometimes embarrassing because we have been conditioned that way. But trust me, everything is completely professional, everything is completely understandable. Um, while society has told us that we need to, keep our sexuality and keep our sex practices and all that private, everyone does them. No matter what you consider, however you define what you like to do, everyone has it. So it's something we need to talk about, and that's what I'm here for. But before we do that, I wanted to lay out a little bit about me for when we meet in person. So in the following weeks, you'll have an idea of who I am before we actually see each other. When you meet me, I will look a lot different than what you see in the picture. That picture was scrolling through my pictures, and this was from 20 years ago, actually 20 plus years ago, from my honeymoon with my wife. I've lost a lot of weight since then, but so I'll look a lot different, but pretty much the same. I miss those sunglasses. I think I lost them somewhere in France. I'm easygoing and I like a good laugh. I try to make things as humorous as possible because I personally believe that humor helps ease any of the kind of hidden feelings and thoughts that people have. We bring it out, we make it lighthearted and fun. Now, when I say lighthearted, though, I'm not going to dismiss any of the hard reality and feelings that people have during this topic. So trust me, your thoughts and your fears and all that will be validated. However, we're going to do it in such a way that hopefully you walk away with a smile on your face and with a little bit more ability to open up about what's going on. Other than that, we are going to have a great time. I'm open to any questions. You can always reach out to my co-partner who will be with us, and hasn't been yet decided who's going to be on this particular workshop. So I will introduce this person when we get there. Other than that, the next little bit of information will spell out what we're going to go over during the 2 days and answer any questions from that point. Don't forget that this is just so you can get some information before we start the actual workshop. Okay, now that I told you a little bit about myself, by the way, if you have any questions, feel free to shoot me off emails. Contact information will be at the end. Call me if you want to know anything else about me, or we'll talk about it when we see each other in a couple weeks. But I want to go over the upcoming topics for this presentation. Now, before we talk about that, you do know that the workshop that we're going to attend, that we're going to work together, is going to be intimate. We're going to all talk about personal things and kind of get everyone to have their questions answered and see how they can fit with one another and things like that. That's the purpose of the workshop. I will go over tools and things that we can do to help understand one another. This presentation that you're looking at now, this pre-homework, if you will, is just to kind of get everyone on the same page and give an idea of what we could talk about. That way we can be more concise when we meet. So first of all, this is a safe space. The workshops are a safe space. So if you are a member of any marginalized group that's not there by choice but being marginalized, you are safe here. Nothing's going to be off topic, and that will be strictly enforced. As I said, I'm fun and outgoing. I like to laugh. However, if we start demeaning other people or anything like that, there is a strong thing, and I will put a stop to it. I have no fear for that. So if you're a member of the LGBTQ community, transgender community, those could be combined, some are saying, some are not, or a person of color or any kind of marginalized group, understand during the workshops and with me, this is a safe space to open up. If you are a member of some sort of community that practices what I call alternative sexual practices, as long as it's not hurting other people or against the law, we will discuss it. And again, this is a safe space for that. Everything is done here with peace and love, and so please keep that in mind. So, upcoming topics, we're going to talk about the male and female sexual response cycle. Now, when I talk about male and female in this case, we're talking about the defined sex assigned at birth. I understand that people feel that they are a different sex, that they identify as a female with a penis or a male with a vagina or whatnot. Some people define themselves as not having any sex. That is all okay, but this is talking about the actual physiological response to sexual stimulation based on your assigned sex at birth. We'll talk about more of that in a little bit. We're going to talk about the emotional aspects of sexuality and sex. What does this do? How does it make people feel? Society. We're going to briefly touch on those. Then we're also going to talk about what is intimacy versus sex. What are forms of sex? Can there be intimacy without sex or vice versa? And then finally, we're going to talk about different couples because we have a lot of people signing up. Man and woman, man and man, woman and woman, no gender, etc. How does this all relate into sexuality? So those are our topics, and we will be discussing them. Go ahead, again, sit back, relax, take this in. This is just to bring everyone up to the same speed, so when we start our workshop in a couple weeks. Okay, now we're going to talk about the sexual response in a general term. This is for both male and female biological sexes. The response cycle is both physical and mental, as figured. They're both physical and mental. Usually the physical is very easy to figure out. The response cycle you start is heartbeat gets going. Anything physical, you get contractions. If you're a male, the testicles shrink up. If you're a female, um, your vagina gets enlarged. Those are the physical symptoms that we all know about. We all hear. There's also the mental aspect. Now, I'm breaking up part of this training, the mental, into two responses. One is it's a physical manifestation of basically chemical release. You have your hormones are released. You have your uh, chemical messages being sent back in your brain. That's actual physical response. Now, when most people think of the mental aspect of any kind of sexual response or arousal or anything like that, it's the actual interpretation of the messages that your brain or body is sending out. So that's going to be something separate that we're going to talk about right here. But in this, the sexual response is actually all physical. From what I'm talking about here in all reality, because it's a chemical reaction. When your muscles tighten up, it's a chemical reaction because of your brain sitting down, things like that. So, in this aspect, again, everything is the physical. But now we're going to break this up into what was brought up by Masters and Johnson. These are 4 points, and they're pretty standard throughout both sexes. Okay, now I'm going to mention the 4 points to remember regarding any kind of sexual response. Again, this is from Masters and Johnson's study. But the first point is the excitement creation. Basically, this is the lead up. This is the what many people consider foreplay. I like to think of it as a roller coaster. Now, please, I hope everyone's ridden at least one roller coaster that's in this class, so it'll make a lot more sense. But this point, this response is like the as soon as you get strapped in and you start going up that roller coaster where you get that. That's the foreplay. That's the creation of the excitement, the start of all of your both mental and physical movements within your body. Okay, now we have started the ride. We've gone up. We've shifted from the excitement or building excitement phase to the plateau. Now, normally, just want to let you know, and this is from sexinfo.com that we use a lot of stuff. That's actually part of the University of California, Santa Barbara. But we hit the plateau. Plateaus are normally considered boring, drab, whatever. Like, hey, I'm weight loss and I hit a plateau, so I'm not losing weight anymore. Negative. I've been working out and I can't seem to get past that bench press weight. Negative. However, plateau in this point is not the negative, as it's usually meant. It's the fun part. I think it's not a boring place. And quote, in this stage, both males and females experience powerful surges of sexual excitement or pleasure. This is the high. if you're thinking of drugs, or in this case, riding the roller coaster, as the picture indicates. Um, it's the fun. It's where you experiment. It's where you try different things. Hey, I'm going to use like this little handcuff on you. That kind of thing. That's the plateau. That's the excitement, awesomeness. It's great. It's almost a 10 out of a 10 part on the scale from Masters and Johnson. So, you equate that to after getting up that first hump on the roller coaster. Okay, now we are getting to the last part here, step number 3 of this 4-point process, or process number 3. And I couldn't find a really good representation with a roller coaster of this part. I think we all know what's coming. Imagine yourself at Disneyland or Disney World, or I think California Adventure in California, where you're riding the roller coaster. And let's say right towards the end of your roller coaster ride, you see this. Yes, it's orgasm. It's the main event. It's the explosion of emotions. It's the explosion of fun. Um, you know, People talk about, and it's normally the shortest phase, kind of like when firework going off, it burst out. Uh, but this is usually the characteristics, the response. It's everything contracts. You kind of like basically lose control of yourself. Um, your mind that's controlling your body is kind of like removed from yourself, and basically it's just all animal nature. It's all everything in there. Taken from, again, from our sexinfo.com. Muscles involuntarily contract, your heart rate, blood pressure, everything peak. You may feel flush over your entire body. The muscles release. Specifically in biological females, the vaginal muscles contract and the uterus undergoes repeated contractions, kind of like similar in childbirth, actually, but more pleasurable. And in male, repeated contractions occur at the base of the penis, and the semen is ejaculated. Uh, there are several differences we'll talk about as far as what this means in both biological males and biological females. Um, in a moment, but it's basically it's the finish, it's the grand ending to the entire act at that point. However, there is one more step to do. So after stage 3, or the orgasm period, we reach the end, the conclusion, the coming back into the station of the fire, of the roller coaster, the calm down period, as I like to say, or the refractory period. Now, there are differences in those timings we'll discuss in a moment. However, everyone does enter this time right after orgasm. It's a time of peace, feeling great. A lot of times there's a very strong emotional connection. Um, a side point on that, just so you know, I mean, we'll talk about this more during our workshop, but you see in the movies all the times where two people are, action adventure movie or whatnot, and because they're living through something so incredibly intense, let's say, a plane crash or whatever, or during that old movie Speed, where um, Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock, are racing on this bus, and they get romantic because of that intense thing. Well, honestly, in this point, you feel connection as well during the refractory period, because you just went through an entire physical, basically, response. I'm not even talking about the mental connection or clarity, which I would argue personally that you feel that mental part now during this refractory period the most. But you you come apart, you feel this shared experience. It's so intense that there's this really good feeling of loving, of connection, normally, of basically feeling like you're in, if you believe in this sort of thing, of a heaven kind of state. That's where we're at with this point. Now, what we're going to talk about next is something that's kind of funny. I'm going to lead it off here. Is a lot of I don't know, society and, wives' tales and whatever. This is the point where you can feel most connected to the man, or the man will tell their feelings. So let's talk about that in just a moment, as far as the differences between biological men and women in this case. Again, here we are talking about the male versus female sexual response. And when we talk about female versus male, we're talking about biologically assigned at birth. So all the physical aspects, mental aspects, chemical aspects that come along with that. Um, the little chart here that you see in this picture here shows basically a happy face and hearts. We have a purple line and a pink line. The pink line is representing biological female at birth, and the purple line we're using for male at birth. And so we go up for intensity, and then that's on the top, that's on the left going vertical, and the horizontal going left to right, we're talking about time. You'll see the male response is quick, to the point, and then down off to the bottom. After um, the orgasm at the heart level, we see that the refractory period is very quickly down to the point, and being able to come back up to any kind of arousal takes a while for most men. Um, and then for women, on the other hand, though, it's instead of a quick grab on up through to the orgasm level, it takes a little bit more time for that to happen. There's a lot of other aspects that come along with that route, that roller coaster ride. But once orgasm is received, the plateau period is a little bit shorter and can be quickly reversed back up to that excitement phase. In addition to these physical aspects of the three phases that we have to think about for men and women, we also have to go off the idea that there's also a lot of inherent sociological and society issues that go along with any kind of sexual practice or abuse. Women, for example, there's usually a lot more of the mental aspect of being able to fall in love with someone, while as men, on average, and the assumption is that it's more of a biological and animalistic kind of idea. That's why men are able to, you know, get aroused faster and have sex faster. It's just more of a biological, while women, more inherent and deep thought process that goes along with that. Normally, I mean, this is all just on averages that we have to think about. Also, the society aspect we have to think about is that there seems to be a lot more pressure on the female gender when it comes to anything sexual related, because there's so much more of a minefield. While a woman should be able to express her sexual desires and have as much fun or whatever she wants at the same time, society usually casts more of a negative route on that. And so that in the back of the mind plays a lot on the four phases that we're talking about here. So this is one thing during our weekend retreat that we're going to talk about, trying to dispel some of those ideas and try and make it a little bit better for everyone all around, to also understand, but also to help yourself. So it's just one thing to think about. Sex and intimacy. What's the difference? Can you have one without the other? I argue right at the beginning here, even though we're trying to define this, just bring everyone up on an individual field, I do want to say my own personal feeling is that these are definitions that cannot be Googled. These are definitions that can't be assigned by a church. These are definitions that cannot be really designed by society. It's up to the individual. My argument is that basically the human nature causes that each thing needs to be defined individually. So it's kind of hard to do this, but I'm going to do my best and let you know. Basically, the definition of intimacy is basically a closeness, um, a close mental and a intimate. I can't use intimacy to define intimacy. So it's a closeness between two or more people where there's a shared belief of honesty. There is a shared belief in knowing the other person. Usually secrets are not hidden. It's that close. We all can define intimacy ourselves, and we get the gist. Sex, for the most part, is just basically physical connection between two or more people or things. Usually for the not usually, for a lot of times for the reason of procreation of the species. A lot of times just for the fun of it. We know that. Now the question is, can we as couples have sex without intimacy? You coming in, I highly doubt that you can actually have sex without intimacy, because you're coming in as a couple. And usually, by the standard definition, what we're thinking is you as the couple have had time to become intimate. You start sharing your beliefs, you start sharing your feelings, you start sharing more than just your bedroom or whatnot. There's a deeper connection. Sex, on the other hand, I could walk down the street, see someone I'm physically attracted to, and have sex with that person. There's no intimacy involved. So the idea is that all people that have sex, or hold on, all people that are intimate have sex. And wait till I define sex more. But not all people that have sex are intimate. Does that make sense? So, looking at the chart there, is can we do that? But then again, is sex or intimacy needed for the actual physical contact? Coming off of psychcentral.com, I believe this is a great quote, so I'm going to do it here. Being intimate with your partner, by the way, quote, being intimate with your partner requires you to be open and honest with him or her or them, and it is from this state of intimacy that great sex grows. This can sometimes be a hurdle in a relationship. Past relationships, childhood hurts, and other emotional conflicts can get in the way of these connections. In these situations, either individual or marital counseling can be a benefit. That's right here. And not only will resolving your issues lead to a deeper and more intimate relationship, it will usually lead to amazing sex too. But that usually gives the idea of sexual intercourse, penetration, things like that. But there's also a lot of situations, and this is a quote as well, a lot of situations in which couples are intimate with each other without having sex. Medical issues can prevent it from intercourse. What if there is some sort of physical issue that the lady is unable to enjoy sex penetrative, like, or the man is unable to get an erection. Masturbation, mutual masturbation might be the way to go. So that is that considered sex? In my mind, as I'm self-defining, it is, but for the purpose of most times, no, it wouldn't be considered sex. It would just be a sexual act. So we must define those carefully. However, when you're coming to this workshop, I want you, after this is done, the part of this is so you can self-define. You know, are you okay as a couple to just leave your intimate acts just to be, solo as far as physically, but mentally together? As I said, mutual masturbation or group masturbation in that case. Are you okay with just the tantric form where there's no um, penetrative sex? It's just more of a mental being there for you. Are you okay with no sex at all and you just still can be intimate with a partner? There are some people that do not like to have any form of sexual activity. So these are things that you must define as the couple coming into here, and that by defining it now before you come to our workshop, we're better able to help you. So now we're moving on with our last part of the the definitions for this part is different couples. What defines the couple? Classically, the definition is two or anything less than or equal to two, but our vernacular for this workshop is going to be one plus. This means that we need to have at least two people. I said people, not a man or woman or anything like that, because we are working here to help facilitate growth and understanding and intimate relationship, and that can be done with more than two people. Actually, it can be done with a man and a woman including a plus one, or a man and a man including a plus one, a woman and a woman including a plus one. um, People that don't agree with sex at all and plus one. This workshop, as I said earlier, is a safe space. So however you're formulating your relationships works for us, as long as everyone is in agreement, no one is being harmed without permission, and that usually means any sort of kind of kink or any kind of submissive kind of thing, but everyone has to be involved and nothing illegal, so no children or anything like that. They can make their own decisions, of course. But in this workshop, in this thing, that's how we're defining it. Now, before we go on, before I give you some of the tools that you're going to become familiar with more intimately when we get to our actual work group, I wanted just to kind of briefly go over this time that we've had together so far in this has just been more of a definition of what's going on. So next, what I'm going to do is talk to you about a few of the tools that we're going to be using that can help bring in bring you closer together. And these tools might have to be used with a professional such as us during a workshop, or any of our post-workshop get-togethers. These things can also be used at home, so we'll talk about those as well. So now that we're done with this area as far as doing the pre-definitions to get to idea, I want to tell you the tools that we're going to use during the workshop. When you get to the workshop on the first day, we're going to give you out a sexual problem self-assessment questionnaire. It kind of helps us focus and you focus on what is you're dealing with here during the practice. So when we do our group therapy and or our individual sessions, if you want to purchase those options, we can focus on those a little quicker and save time and make this as efficient as possible for you. After we do the questionnaire on the first day, not on the second day, we'll start immediately into our group therapy, where we're going to start with our focus on a narrative therapy focus. We're going to sit there and we're going to have everyone give out ideas, because this is a time where everyone's going to come together, talk about their issues, talk about the problems, hopefully not in a lot of detail. FYI, we've had groups before come in and get detailed and we have to put a stop to it because it's really detailed. But we want everyone to be able to tell them stories, and by doing this, by putting out the stories, other people can learn from those and come up with ideas of their own. After that, of course, we'll have lunch and breakfast and things like that. But after that, we're going to do our breakout sessions. Now, for the entrance to this workshop, you get to choose one of these each day. The first one will be listening rather than listening to respond. It's a form of communication that we work on that's based on what we learned from our redecision therapy on how to bring couples together and to just listen to what's going on in their past. Second breakshop that you could choose is how do you support your significant other while remaining who you are. This is tied very closely to the love languages and what women are from Mars, women are from Venus kind of ideas, where basically you're listening to what they want and what they need, giving them what they want, what they need, but while also remaining who you are. Next, you can choose gaining strength to say what you want in bed. And then also finally developing the relationship contract, which is something I've used in my own couples therapy as far as bringing people in together, where you bring everything down to the business level as it is, and then you rebuild the intimacy and the love from that point. After those breakout sessions, we will have cooking for others, which is basically our dinner, where we ask everyone to start, use the recipes that we have on hand, on site, and you make dinner for another couple. But they have to tell you what they want and you try to develop this. So it's kind of a fun, interactive kind of thing. After that, we have free time for the rest of the night, or if you are purchasing the additional package, you can get couples talk therapy on a one-on-one basis. We have several slots available each of the 2 nights. So we look forward to doing that. These are the tools we're using. We're looking forward to seeing you at our workshop in a couple weeks. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to use your registration packet. It has our contact information here at Balanced Minds. Thank you very much, and see you in a few weeks. The following is some additional resources you may want to look at before you come to the workshop.